The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath, and terrify them in his fury, saying, As for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. It is Tuesday, the 31st day of January 2023, final day of the first month of 2023, and it's my honor and privilege to be able to read to us our devotional thought for today, coming from the book Truth for Life by pastor and author Alistair Begg. And this is the second edition, by the way. Today's devotional thought is entitled, Nothing Thwarts God. That's Nothing Thwarts God. And the verses today, Psalms 2, verses 1 through 6, which reads, The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath, and terrify them in his fury, saying, As for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. That's Psalms 2, verses 1 through 6. Pastor Alistair Begg writes, As far back as 1939, the Dutch theologian Johann Herman Vaschnik observed, It looks more and more likely that our culture, based as it is on self-satisfaction, will at a certain moment collapse. Then, we as humanity will face a worldwide calamity that will occur without warning. It may yet take a while, but there's no doubt it will come. If Vaschnik were here today, perhaps he would find our present circumstances to be something of a fulfillment of the prophetic word. For materialism, instant gratification, and the individualistic autonomy were all sold to us as a path to satisfy ourselves, and these things having failed, where do our societies turn? We shouldn't misunderstand all the troubles of our world as being explicable in worldly terms alone. Mankind, the Bible tells us, is opposed to the gospel of Jesus Christ. As we consider our circumstances in light of the Scriptures, we recognize that this is what the psalmist meant when he wrote, Why do the nations rage, and peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. If we do not want to be baffled and bowled over by opposition and persecution, we must remember that God is sovereign and that he cannot be defeated. The unfolding of his purposes from all of eternity is at the very heart of biblical Christianity. He is the maker. He speaks and he decides. While the calamities of our world are all a part of God's plan, has predestined to take place. He has set his king to reign, and nothing will thwart his purpose. As his people, the church should therefore sound no retreat, but revelry. We must remind ourselves and others of whom the enemy is, and our battle is primarily a spiritual one, waged not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness. Ephesians 6, verse 12. And we must remind ourselves and others who the victor is, and always shall be, the King God has appointed, his Son and our Savior. As we consider the amazing disposition between our sovereign God and this world full of rebellion, we ought to turn to him in prayer. Indeed, Paul reminded his readers to pray always in the Spirit with all prayers and supplication. Ephesians 6, verse 18. Encouraging them with the truth that the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4. We can pray boldly and live bravely because God stands sovereign. He is advancing His purpose, and nothing and no one can ultimately stand against His desire to glorify His King and bless His people. We are truly a blessed people. So fear not if you are overcome by circumstances, trials, difficulties. Realize this, that nothing and no one can ultimately stand against His desire to glorify His King and to bless you, His children. Well, Clive Walsh here, trusting that this devotional thought was a blessing to you and those of you reading through the Bible in a year. Your assignment is Isaiah chapter 28 and 29, as well as Mark's Gospel chapter 7, verses 1 through 13. And may the Lord richly bless you.